Good evening. The time is 7:01. This regularly scheduled meeting of the East Lyme Planning Commission is now in session. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started, I'd just like to introduce for everyone our town planner, Mr. Gary Gaishel, and our recording secretary, Brooke Stevens. And starting with Mr. Lynch, if you could state your name for our audience.
Peter Lynch. Excuse me.
Don Finister, alternate.
Rita Palazzo.
Brian Shook.
Joan Bankson. Brenda Henderson.
As this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the East Lyme Planning Commission, we will take a call for additions to the agenda. Are there any tonight?
I have none.
Going twice. Very well, we'll make a call for public delegations. Public delegations is the time when members of the public are invited to speak to the commission about certain matters. Issues or concerns related to approved subdivisions under construction and in-house proposals or general topics of discussion are open to comment during public delegations. Items, referrals, or applications subject to a decision by the commission, public hearing, or in litigation may not be discussed. During delegations, the members of the commission will not directly answer questions or make comment. This evening, is anyone present to address the commission as a public delegation? Going twice? Very well, it brings us into our public hearings for this evening. First item A is the application of Ann K. Torrance, applicant owner. Application for a two-lot re-subdivision of approximately 2 acres zoned R40 at 197 Upper Patagonia Road, East Lyme, Assessor's Map 35, lot number 30. If I recall correctly, Mr. Gaishel, we had started this public hearing and we continued it. Could you bring us up to speed on the status of the application?
Yes, there's a couple of items to add to the agenda. Exhibit list. Exhibits R and S. We have a letter from Mohammed Dadi, ED, dated March 2nd, 2017. And we also have a sightline analysis from Electric Light Company. Dated received August 1st, 2017.
Very well.
And I believe in your packet you have a copy, Exhibit T, of Victor Benny's memo. Regarding what you will be waiting on in the last meeting, so I think town staff have time to review. Point out that his comments are relatively nominal. Referencing section 6.25 of the subdivision regulations, regarding notes being added to plans regarding driveways. We have some just general water comments. Ultimately resulting in a decrease in impervious surfaces, so that's the overall intent of the stormwater regulations. Also in your packet is that the letter from Mohammed Dadi, also got the drainage calculation, fix, reduction in impervious surface, removal of the driveway. It provides the area of the garage, so total reduction in impervious surface. Net increase in runoff, applicants here tonight.
Good evening.
Good evening. Jeff Torrance, 197 Upper Patagonia Road. I have two items to submit as exhibits. One are the updated plans that incorporate both Ledge Light's comments and the comments from Victor from Friday that we received on Friday. I also have a letter dated July 27th, 2017 from Ahmed Dadi to Ryan McCammon at Ledgelight that deals with the issues he raised and where we incorporated them into the plans. Want me to continue?
Please.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I was waiting for him. To briefly summarize again, this is an application that the existing lot is a little over 2 acres. It's being split roughly in half. There's a barn that has been winterized that is not currently a residence, that is going to be turned into a residence on one of the lots. And the existing home obviously would be on the remaining lot. Currently, both buildings are served by a 7-bedroom septic system. Each of the buildings, both the house and the barn, are served by separate wells. Those well reports and other related documents are in the design report that was submitted as an exhibit to the application at the last hearing. The only thing that we needed to do in term is to install the second system. And as we discussed with staff when we met, it's kind of what comes first, the chicken or the egg. And we have a system in which both buildings are attached to one 7-bedroom approved septic system at the current time. The plan is to remove the barn from the joint system, so to speak, and install the new system for the barn. Under the state health code, that's considered a repair, apparently, and I'll let the engineer speak to that fact. It's not technically a new system because the building is currently served by an existing system. We've addressed all the comments that we received from staff and the plans. And unless you have questions, I have nothing else to add.
Thank you. Commissioner
Sir.
members, if you have questions?
If I remember right, you're removing an office from the
Correct.
barn. and
That's,
that- and-
well,
and-
presently, there are 4 buildings on
Right.
the property. There's the existing house, a detached 3-car garage, an outbuilding that was originally used as a milk house when it was a farm, and which is now used as an office, and the barn. The former milk house, current office, has to be removed because we wouldn't have the proper separation from the property lines.
Okay.
So and the comment to the town engineer was he just wanted it depicted on the plans to be removed, and that was incorporated into the plan.
Thank you.
With respect to the 7-bedroom unit, septic system, how many bedrooms are presently?
5.
Okay.
And 5 bedrooms in the house, none in the barn because it's an accessory building.
Right.
It's not a residence.
Okay.
And back in 1995, and in the design report that's an exhibit to this application, we actually had received a waiver from the state of Connecticut Board of Health to connect both buildings to a single septic system. But because we're separating lots, now we need to change that.
Naturally.
Yeah.
Mr. Gaishel, in terms of the timeline, I remember that we started this a month ago. Where are we in terms of our time horizons?
We have 35 days to conduct the public hearing. We voted to open the public hearing last month. So that brings us to close this by August 15th, 2017. Within that 35 days. So the applicant does have a period of time of not just the 65 days, they can grant the commission extensions either at any point during the application period to either extend the public hearing or for the decision to open the public hearing. So that said, we have to the 15th for the decision.
To close the public hearing? Or to-
Yes.
And then we can,
Yeah, we have 65 days to make the decision.
very well. Mr. Torrance, does that conclude your remarks?
Unless you have any specific questions for the engineer on the revised septic system, or, I think everything's part of the record.
Very well. As this is a public hearing, I want to provide an opportunity for people to come up and speak to the application. So thank you for your comments. Mr. Dottie, or the engineer, if you'd like to speak,
The septic, I'm Ahmed Dottie of Total Design Dottie Associates representing my client. I've been practicing engineering since 1970.
Can you speak into the mic, please?
Since 1970,
Thank you.
we have done work all over the state, septic engineering in Massachusetts, New York. This particular, as Jeff said, that it's about 2+ acre parcel, and it's divided so that each is more than 40,000 square feet, which is considered a builder's acre. The original system had, the house septic system, the barn septic system is designed for a 3-bedroom house, and is shown on our revised plan and was shown in the previous plans. Under the code, all that is required for the subdivision is that the soil will support. You don't even have to design the details, but we have designed a complete septic system which is ready to be installed. And it's meets the latest health code of 2016 that was issued January 2016. As for the comments that came from regarding all the other 3 items, on sheet 2, it's noted that the existing office building will be removed. We have shown on the surveyor's plan the existing pins as well as the pins to be installed. When the subdivision is approved, the surveyor will come and install them. Driveways, all driveways have less than 10% grade. It has a minimum width, driveway is about 13 to 15 feet wide. They're all paved all the way down to the street line. And you already have the calculations. So unless you have any questions, I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Commission members, would anyone have a specific question about the engineering calculation?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to invite any members of the public. We are public hearing A, application of Ann K. Torrance, applicant owner, for a 2-lot re-subdivision on 197 Upper Patagonic Road. Is anyone present this evening here to speak to this application? Going twice? Very well. As I see it, we've collected a record of exhibits for our public hearing. We've offered time to speak at our last meeting and this meeting, and to be consistent with our 35-day time window to conduct the public hearing. I'd like the commission members, if we're satisfied, we could take a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's a motion from Rita and a second from Joan. Is there further discussion? Anyone have a reason to keep this open? With respect to the drawings that were submitted this evening, these are updated drawings,
That incorporate the town engineer's comments.
and
We're basically adding notes to the plan that indicate that the no driver rating is.
is there a way for you to get on the microphone, Mr. Gish, please?
Thank you.
Grab a microphone. Again, just to reiterate, his comments were to basically add notes to these plans. You said depict and label the office building. You have his memo in front of you. So really, there's not much else. I mean, I can go through this if you'd like.
No, I just wanted to clarify that if the commission members wanted to review the sheets, they'd be available in your office, and that
Okay.
would also be available to anyone from the public who'd like to review the
Right.
application for re-subdivision.
I guess my only cautionary comment before you close the public hearing was we did have the Ledgelight Health Department review by Ryan McCammon, and again, the engineer is here tonight. So that review is not necessarily favorable. I'd point out that he basically said that the lots are not recommended suitable in their current condition in the following issues to be addressed. Basically, he wants them to create a guidance plan for the repair of the septic system. So as Jeff, you heard earlier, there's an existing system serving both the barn and the house, and to eliminate it, to remove it, it's a repair versus a new install. So that, I think, I would just keep in the back of your mind as far as moving forward with the application on any decision, if you were to approve it, that there be a condition related to that, that they repair the system versus install. I didn't want to call it that, but aside from that, I don't really see any other major issues.
Is there any,
In terms of all the other reports, the application has indicated it was already previously submitted with the Nottingham Hills subdivision application several years ago.
very well. Thank you for that comment, and understanding that will be an issue when we deliberate. We can revisit during our deliberations, which are on our agenda for later this evening, should we want to move towards that.
Not this one.
Very well. We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing on item A. Further discussion, is there any? All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? 6-0. Public hearing is closed. Thank you. This brings us to our second public hearing of the evening. Number B, application of Robert Fusari Real Estate Service of Connecticut Incorporated, applicant owner. The application for a 25-lot re-subdivision of approximately 97 acres owned R40 at Spring Rock Road and Green Valley Lakes Road, East Lyme, Assessors Map 14, Lot 45, together with a waiver request from Section 6-10-11 of the East Lyme subdivision regulations. This was a public hearing that we opened last month and was continued to this evening. I recognize some of the faces. Thank you for your courtesy. We'll continue the public hearing now in the similar format to last month. I'd ask that you come up, state your name for the record. It's important that the commission stay between all the conversations and topics, so please address the commission when you speak. If you have questions, address them to the commission. The commission will then address the applicant with those questions. Just points of order. To start us off this evening, does the applicant have anything that they would like to comment on to bring us up to speed?
Good evening. My name is Joe Wren. I'm a professional engineer licensed in Connecticut, and I represent the applicant, Bob Fusari, who's with us in the front row, along with his attorney. At your request from the last meeting, we also have with us tonight the archaeologist who was the author of the report that we submitted into the record, and also the traffic engineer, Jim Bubaris, who was the author of the traffic report that was also submitted into the record. We have made some plan revisions. We received some comments from the town engineer. We were trying to get a wetland submission in for a week ago last Thursday for their meeting the following Monday. We got his comments pretty much on the same day, maybe the day before. So when we did meet with him the prior week to get some of the early comments so we can incorporate them in the plans before we resubmitted to wetlands. So some of the things that made it into his final letter, which was, I believe, submitted last Tuesday or Wednesday, are incorporated into the plans, and a couple other things are not. And if you would like, I can go through his comments. And that essentially covers the majority of any presentation that I would have, because he has comments, and I could show you how either they were already addressed or will be addressed. The other things I have just deal with just a brief overview from last time regarding the finding of no adverse impact from the Regional Planning Agency and Local Council of Governments, the approvals from Ledge Light Health District, the town engineer for wetlands. He had approved it for wetlands with one comment, which we have incorporated into the plans. And also the DEP looked at it from a natural diversity database, as we mentioned last time. And they found no concern with this project. We also had a third-party review that we discussed last time, and we had the owner of Geomatrix Septic Systems, David Potts. We had him to one of our wetlands meetings as well, supporting that, supporting really the approval from your health director. Last time we also went through your Section 23 or zoning regulations for the CDD subdivision. And the purpose of that, we went through that last time. We could revisit that if you'd like to, because we feel that this project meets that purpose and the intent of that, and also of your plan of conservation development. The property is zoned R40. We are doing single-family residential there, consistent with the plan, and as part of the plan of conservation development, it recognizes this as one of the top 10 areas of open space to preserve. With this application, any other development may not do this, but this application provides 70%, if you remember, of open space. So 70% of the land will be preserved in perpetuity, where only 30% is required. So it's 2.5 times that amount, more or less. Lastly, I just wanted to go into some DEP water quality stuff just to familiarize you with the detention basin that is proposed, and then the cul-de-sac center island. There's been some discussion on that in various letters, and then discuss the open space very briefly. A lot of those items we went through last time, so I just wanted to bring those up again. And then the water quality basin, there has been some more information that was submitted into wetlands that I just wanted to share with you as well. So if I may start, the first thing I want to do is just go through the town engineer comments.
If before we begin that, just because you touched on the wetlands, could you clarify for me the status of your application with the Wetlands Commission?
They closed the public hearing at their last meeting, and we're awaiting deliberation and at their next meeting and possible vote.
Very well. And Mr. Gager, can you just comment on that and how it impacts our timeline?
So, the planning commission, by statute, cannot render a decision on this application until the wetlands agency furnishes a final report and decision to this commission. So we wait on that before we can render a decision.
Very well. So this is...
Regardless of any timeframes. So, we do have timeframes to follow. However, if wetlands says they fails to act within their timeframe, it doesn't necessarily automatically grant their approval.
So there's no finalization tonight,
We don't have
according to,
wetlands.
right, because you don't have a wetlands. Okay,
we can-
just want to make sure we're,
And in anticipating the fact that we do not have a decision at this point, I have a letter consenting to an extension of time within which to close the public hearing through your next regular meeting. I'd like to submit that.
Thank you. And it's just, to be clear, is that we have on our agenda tonight the public hearing as well as the deliberations. Is your letter asking for more time for the public hearing? Or
That's correct. Because there's no decision from wetlands, this commission can't render a decision, and until we get the decision from wetlands, we don't know what conditions might attach that might require plan revisions. So as a result, we're consenting to an extension so that we may respond, if necessary, to anything that may come from the Wetlands Commission.
Great. Commission members, are we all on board for that? Okay. I just wanted to make sure we're on the, and to members of the public on how all of that works. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So I'll just get into the town engineer's comments and one by one, because I think it's pretty comprehensive and it covers anything else that I would mention regardless. So Gary, if you can bring up that, first of all, if you can bring up the latest plan set. It's not, the latest plan set's not in there, you have it. The first comment just deals with labeling the iron pins and monuments for the lots to be set, but I just wanted to point out in the plans that they are already called out as proposed pins and monuments, and I just wanted to show you that on the plan and then move on to the second comment.
We can ask questions. Public hearing goes.
No, you
Probably said,
Okay. Okay. So you can't pull up the latest revised plan set then?
they all have in front of them.
Okay.
The revised, by 16 places.
We do.
Okay.
Pull up the existing previous stuff.
That one.
Yeah, I do. It's just easier to have up there. So, go back and we'll do it the old-fashioned way. Comment number 1, labeling the iron pins. If you look at drawing number 2 and drawing number 11 in the survey sheets, you will see that there's a legend. I believe it's in the upper right corner, and it shows existing features and proposed features.
Is that the sheet number or the drawing number?
Should be the drawing number.
11? Yep.
2 and 11.
Is that down on the right-hand side corner?
Yeah, drawing number 11, lower left, lower right-hand corner, sorry. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a box that's labeled legend. And you can see all the existing features, and then there are 2 proposed features, and those are proposed pins and proposed monuments. So if they have that same symbol on the plan, the dark black circle and the dark black square, those are all the proposed monuments and pins. It may have just been overlooked. There are several of them, so instead of putting notes to all of them, they're just in the legend and covered, blanket covered.
And those are presently in the ground?
No,
Oh.
no, of course. With the approval of the subdivision, those would be set.
Very well.
Those are proposed markers. Comment number 2 just dealt with the drainage report and just asked that we include the 5-year storm frequency. We had the 2, 10, 25, 50, and 100, and we've added that to the drainage report. Provide more information in regard to proposed stormwater galleries. There was a Scrivener's error on one of the details that said something about galleries. There are no proposed galleries for infiltration on this project, so that was corrected on that sheet 40, and you'll no longer see the reference to galleries on there. Comment number 3 deals with, relative to the Connecticut DOT Drainage Manual. He asked us we had an emergency spillway, a great overflow. He asked us to add a riprap emergency spillway, which we have, and we provided details on that sheet 40 as well. Provide 1 foot of freeboard. That just has to deal with the computations. Provide 4 to 1 side slope maintenance access, we did adjust some of the grading according to his comments within the drainage basins, and then rerun the computations accordingly to accommodate that. And the emergency spillway, again, shall be armored, and as referenced in the detail, we have included a detail on, I believe it's sheet 40, showing that it has armored with riprap. Now that spillway is above the 100-year flood level, so if something happens in the basin and it doesn't drain appropriately 5, 10, 15, 50 years from now, it has the ability to go up and over in the event of a very large storm. Other than that, that spillway remains dry and it's not used. It's only for an event that exceeds the 100-year storm, or in the event something is clogged in the basin and it needs to overflow. That's just to prevent failure of the berm of the basin. Comment number 4.
Could you just show me where that is on the map, please?
So if you go to
drawing
page
11?
40,
The detail is on sheet 40.
40. Okay. Shoot, 40.
so sheet 40, more or less in the center of the page, we have the basin spillway detail, the cross-sectional detail. And then just to the left of that, I don't have anything for you. We also have a longitudinal sectional detail on there too, as you can see.
Okay.
We've included
Thank
that,
you.
and then in plan view, on the grading plans, we show that in plan view as well. And your town engineer will continue to review that now that we've incorporated it. Any other revisions based on our next wetlands meeting, and of course this planning meeting, we'll go into another revised set and we'll discuss those revisions next time. But with that next revision, the town engineer will have another opportunity to review it and make sure everything is per his requirement, and then provide you with an updated letter.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're stapled together, so I'll never be able to flip through them and all that. I think it's okay, as long as everybody has a copy of the set of the plans. I did notate like the sheets of the plans and so forth on here, so it should be okay. Comment number 4 deals with the access strip serving lot 13. So in lot 13, any of the sheets that show lot 13, for example, drawing number 12, one of the survey sheets. The actual access strip, that's a rear lot, so it has a driveway back to the house. The actual strip, the surveyed strip, if you look at the meets and bounds, they're just under 300 feet. It's 299 and change. The driveway, if you measure the driveway from the edge of the road to beyond where the lot opens up, it's a little bit over 30 feet. A little bit over 300 feet, sorry. And if you do have a driveway to a rear lot that's over 300 feet, this board may require a 20 by 20 turnaround. In front of the garage, as we show it on the plan, we already have larger than a 20 by 20 square in front of the garage. So given the fact that the access strip isn't over 300 feet, the driveway is just slightly over 300 feet, and that we already have a 20 by 20 area within the current driveway, I think you may find that it meets that requirement already. If you wanted an additional 20 by 20 area, that's a large lot, we certainly can accommodate that. Comment number 5 deals with the shade trees, and that there should be a 5-foot street tree easement, and that will be accommodated beyond the right-of-way, not part of the right-of-way. Beyond the right-of-way, there'd be a 5-foot street tree easement, and the trees would be planted within that easement. Number 6 gets into the sight line, and Gary, if you could bring up on my thumb drive there. Probably that one right there. Bring that up. Blow that up for us. So this is a new sheet. The one that you have in your set, this is updated based on the engineering's comments, because the traffic engineer, Jim Bubaris, who's with us this evening, he also wanted us just to demonstrate this. Gary, if you can zoom in maybe on the upper half, and then we'll move to the lower half. So what we have here is the proposed intersection with a car sitting at the intersection. Initially, we had the line of the driver's eye 10 feet back from the edge of Green Valley Lakes Road. He suggested per DOT, Highway Design Manual, that we go 15 feet back from the edge of the road, which is very conservative. We have a 30-foot wide road there, but we did do that. And this shows you to the right, you can see the lines to the right with the other car on Spring Rock Road, that we have adequate sight line there. And then looking to the left, Gary, if you can just scroll to the left just slightly, you can see that sight line with the car right there by the cursor. On lot 24, you see the hatched area. That also is an addition that the applicant added in here. He added, even though it's not required by your regulations, he added a 20-foot no-cut buffer to protect the lot across the street and just leave a 20-foot wide buffer along Green Valley Lakes Road. It's not part of the requirements, but he offered to do that. Now, for the sight line, you'll see in the language of that easement will be obviously allowed that some trimming and edge clearing there is required for sight line, of course. And the sight line goes through that area, so there will be rights that, as brush grows in or trees grow out, that it can be cleared to maintain that sight line from the driver's eye at 15 feet back. So that's the first part of that comment. And he goes on to say a sightline easement over lot 24, that's what we just discussed, that will be included. So there's an opportunity to clear the sightline upon acceptance of the proposed road. This is a long comment, I'm just making sure I cover all the points in it. And he asked us just to provide in another note about the initial clearing, and of course we will do that. As a matter of fact, we show a proposed clearing limit there now to provide the sight line. So as part of this work, that edge clearing will be done so that we achieve that sight line. And then once the town accepts the road, they will be responsible for maintaining that clearing and that sight line. Comment number 7 deals with proposed footing drains, shall not drain to rain gardens. We took the footing drains out of the rain gardens and just have them discharging to the lot itself and overland flow at this time. Number 8 starts off with provide sizing criteria and design details for riprap splash pads and or plunge pools. Again, on that page, I believe it's 40 or 41, we do have a detail of the plunge pool. Page 41 in the upper right-hand corner, we provided a standard detail for a riprap plunge pool. He asked for sizing criteria, and that we will provide. The water coming out of the we only have 2 plunge pools on this job, and they're at the outlet of the water quality basins. So the water leaving the water quality basin will be at a fairly slow velocity, and it'll be going through a fairly flat pipe, so when it hits the plunge pool, it won't be traveling that fast. The idea of the plunge pool is to act as a settling basin, so whatever comes out of there has another chance to settle before it evenly disperses over land. He would just like sizing criteria for the actual stone that's proposed, the riprap, and we will add that. The second part of that sentence says include erosion sediment control measures at these key locations. And on the erosion and control plan, we have run the silt fence around there. Wetlands hasn't really commented much on that. If this commission feels, or the Wetlands Commission feels, that more erosion sedimentation control is needed at that location, we're very happy to add. We already have a wood chip berm and silt fence, but we're happy to add some hay bales at the outlet if it's deemed necessary. The grades are very flat, and again, the water builds up a little bit in these basins before it even spills out, and as it starts to spill out, it just trickles out to a plunge pool and then overland. So we don't expect, there's no steep slopes at any of these outlets, so we don't expect any issues at either location. Number 9, a lot of discussion on the roadway width. So Gary, if you go back onto my thumb drive, we have a couple of exhibits for you. One of our very initial meetings and questions with the town engineer and Gary's office, we discussed the width of the road, and the number that came out of that meeting was 24 feet. It's a CDD subdivision. The purpose of a CDD is to reduce impervious areas, reduce road width, reduce road length. If you look in the DEP water quality manual, which we have here as well, they show alternative cul-de-sac designs to decrease impervious areas. They show reduced road widths to decrease impervious areas. So since this is a conservation by design development, we thought it'd be prudent to have a road. Other subdivisions, I did a subdivision in Westbrook, for example, a 20-foot wide road. 22 is now common. What we're proposing here, what the town engineer was initially comfortable with and is still comfortable with, is 24 feet. Last time we had a discussion of the width of this room. This room, we just measured it right before the meeting tonight, is 25 feet wide. So you see the width of this room minus 1 foot. It's a fairly substantial width. The other thing is that we have Cape Cod curb that's a foot wide. It's mountable. It's a very low reveal, so that you can easily, no matter what car you drive, you can easily get a wheel up on there. So if you wanted to park on the curb, you can. If you have the normal 6-inch high lip curbing, you can't do that. So you're restricted to be in the road pavement, not on the curb or even closer to the curb. People tend to park away from curbs because they don't want to scratch their tire or their rim. Here, there's no vertical wall per se of a curb. It's just a very low profile. We have a detail on the plan of that Cape Cod curbing. You can see it's a foot wide and has a very low reveal. So if you go with that, if you go from edge of curb to edge of curb, you actually have 26 feet. But inside curb to inside curb, you have 24 feet. That's a standard travel way. But if someone was to park on the side of the road, you certainly could easily get a tire or two up on that curb. So it's not as restrictive. So Gary, if you can, let me see here. Where are we? Oh, did that just update?
No, I just
Can you expand it? I just want to see that too. Okay, so the folder roadway width exhibits. Okay, let's go to the 28-foot wide one first. So this is an exhibit that we put together, and this is to a relative scale. You can see the curb on both sides has label. You can see it if you blow it up a little bit more just so we get the picture so everyone can see. The inside width from curb to curb, a standard roadway per your regulations is 28 feet, inside curb to inside curb. And then you have the standard lip curbing that has that more of a vertical restriction. So this assumes cars park within a foot of the curb. Any 28-foot wide road in town has no, the majority of them anyways that we have reviewed have no parking restrictions. So cars are able to park on both sides of the street. So if a standard car was parked on each side of the street, assuming 1 foot of the curb, you can see that there's about 14-foot clear width between. Gary, if you scroll down, you can see this same plan just in section view. So you can see the two vehicles there about a foot of the curb, and you can see the 14-foot clear between. Now the next exhibit, if you go to the 24-foot wide road one, this is the one that we're proposing. The town engineer has accepted the 24-foot wide width, and he has suggested in this letter of no parking signs put every 250 feet, which are in the plans that you have on the west side of the road, as indicated in this exhibit. So if you have parking on the east side of the road within a foot of the curb, same car, you actually have 17 feet clear, which is 3 feet more than the other option, and you still have your mountable curb on both sides. So the car could be over more, and something passing on the other side could get up on that curb as well. So 17 is the conservative number. It could be more like 18 or 19, depending on if the curb's used or the other car's closer to the curb. So with 24-foot width, no parking signs, you actually have more usable width. And if people are parking on the other side, it's enforceable, obviously by the police department, because there would be no parking signs every 250 feet there. That's another lengthy comment, so let's just make sure that we. So in here again, he says it won't support parking on both sides of the street, and obviously we're showing the no parking signs and parking on one side of the street. And it gets into the no parking signs, which we already talked about, and we have included on the plans that you have. There's a note calling out, a note and a depiction of a sign every 250 feet along that west edge of the road. Item number 10 just gets into the type of curbing. The regulations require the 6-inch bituminous lip curbing that we already talked about, and he says that he finds the Cape Cod curb as acceptable. Number 11 gets into the actual pavement section detail. He says right in his letter that that's sheet 41. So on sheet 41 on the left-hand side, we have a pavement section detail. And he's just asking for some minor revisions of that detail and to add the new super pave mixes that replace the old Class 1 and Class 2 bituminous concrete mixes. So
Sheet 41.
those, that comment is something that is not on your plan there, but will be done. It's basically a very minor comment. Comment number 12 asked for metal beam rail on the north side of the road between these two stations. It's about 60 feet or so. The reason for that, the grading down into the water quality basin in that area on the west side of the road exceeded a 4-to-1 slope. So when you exceed a 4-to-1 slope within a certain distance of the road, you need guardrail protection. What we did is as I mentioned earlier, we modified the grading because he had us modify the grading in the basin from an earlier comment. We modified that grading and held the 4-to-1, so there's no warrant for guardrail any longer in that. So we'll continue to talk to him on that, but we feel that with grading that there won't be a guide rail warrant at that location. Number 13 just gets into he recommends having, based on soil testing conditions, recommends having under drains under the road, even though we're along a ridge and the ground pitches away on both sides. But that is something that we can add to the plan for sure. All the septic systems on the plan are to the rear, so there's nothing close to the street. If we had them on the street side, there would be a separation distance to any groundwater drain that would be required, but they're all to the rear as we show it, so there's no conflict there. Number 14 gets into the type of catch basin. Since we had Cape Cod curb, we now have included on sheet 41 right on the right-hand side, we've included a detail for a Cape Cod curb catch basin detail. So that is on the plans that you have there. Then he goes on in that same comment regarding outlet hood protection. Before, if you recall, we were providing 4-foot sumps and then outlet hoods on the last catch basin in the run prior to it discharging to the basin or on the north end of the job to the existing drainage system. He has recommended that we provide those, the outlet hoods. We explained them last time, how they go over the outlet pipe and they keep the floatables and the oils above the invert from going out. So he's recommended putting those on every single catch basin, not just the last ones in the run. So we've included that on this set of plans as well. Those outlet hoods are on every single catch basin. Further down in the comment, talks about providing a 4-foot sump with hood protection at catch basin 19, which was done. Type C catch basin at eastern intersection. Gary, can you go back to the plan just so I can show it? This one needs a little bit more clarification. Oh, you don't have the plan, that's right. You could actually go to the old plan though, because it hasn't changed. The last revision. The only set of plans that Gary has on here are the last revision, but in this particular area, it hasn't changed. It's hard to point out the detail on here. So if you go on like sheet 21, okay, so one back is of the cover. Oh, try 2 forward. Try 22, just because of the cover. There we go. So zoom in on the intersection, please. So the last part of this comment deals with this existing catch basin. Oop, you went ahead one, couple. 20. It's here too, so you can stay here. It's 29, but it's fine. No, it's 22. There you go. So just scroll down to that intersection. There we go. Okay. So if you can just bring the cursor over to the intersection in the vicinity of the stop arc, and now if you just go directly up on the plan, right there where the cursor is, there is a catch basin, and currently it's a type C catch basin, which just means it has a curb back to it on the existing curb of the roadway. With this plan, since our curb is a little bit beyond that catch basin, we just changed that to a flat top catch basin. And he's asking us to keep the type C catch basin with the curb back because it also has a throat at the gutter line to accept more water. And again, it's a minor adjustment. We could probably bring the curb to the basin or shift the basin over and just kind of corbel the basin so that we can use the same structure underground and just shift the top over a foot or whatever it is to the edge of the curb there. I just wanted to zoom in.